Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Other Side of Medicine. I'm Dr. Chris Stosic, and I'm glad that you're spending some time with us today. We have a special guest here on the program today. It's Dr. Sarah Douglas, and she is a licensed naturopathic physician, and she earned her doctorate of naturopathic medicine and master's degree in science of human nutrition from the University of Bridgeport in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And Dr. Douglas brings a diverse background of evidence-based natural medicine, integrative medicine, and nutrition, along with laboratory diagnostics and research. She's a medical writer and health educator. She loves explaining medical information that's often difficult for people to understand. She puts it into terms that can be easily understood and comprehended. And she has a great love for natural medicine and is dedicated to educating others about the science behind natural medicine and the benefits of clinical nutrition and disease prevention. So she's a strong advocate for the advancement of biomedical research and functional medicine model of healthcare. And we're glad that we have her along with us today, and we're privileged to have this remarkable woman. Dr. Douglas, welcome to The Other Side of Medicine.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Happy to be here with you today.
Well, good. Well, today we're going to be discussing gut health, and we're going to be diving into all the various aspects of how gut health touches every part of our body and every system of our body, and all the research that's coming out behind it. It's extraordinary, and we're really excited to have you with us and talk about this. And specifically, we're going to talk about a couple things that I think are really very, very important for gut health, and that are really in the limelight today on YouTube and social media. People are talking about these natural compounds that the bacteria inside of our gut produce. And we're going to be diving into one very important one called butyrate. And not all butyrate is created equal. And you're going to really describe that for us today and share with us the various types of butyrate that are out there and the forms. But I think it's really important for people to understand that when we eat healthy food, especially fiber-rich plant-based foods, the bacteria in our gut, they take that plant-based food, that fiber specifically, and they digest it and they ferment it. And then they make these natural compounds that have profound effects inside of our body, not just in the gut, but throughout the entire body. And butyrate is one of those compounds that has remarkable healing properties. It helps to reduce inflammation inside the body. It helps to regulate blood sugar levels, and it helps even with weight management. There's research behind that, and helps with the immune function and supports bone health and skin health and sleep quality. And our gut affects the brain, and butyrate has a profound effect there as well. So, Dr. Douglas, if you could talk to us a little bit about how butyrate helps with the production of the energy for the cells that line the gut. And we know that over 100 million Americans are suffering with digestive illnesses. And with digestive illness, leaky gut, the damage to the lining of the gut goes hand in hand. Could you explain to our listening audience about what the leaky gut is and how it affects our health?
Absolutely. Yeah. Let me pull up a picture here for you so that we can really depict it here. So on the left there, you're going to see a normal gut. So you'll see that we have a blood vessel here at the bottom. We have a few cells above that blood vessel. And then what you see up top is where the inside of our gut, essentially. So like I said, on the left, we have a healthy gut. So it's nice and calm, no inflammation going on there. We have really healthy, tight junctions. And these are really kind of the connections between the cells that keep them tightly together to keep out things like viruses, foreign invaders, food particles. and really healthy mucus layer there, kind of protecting those tissues, and everything's working properly. Now on the right, you see a leaky gut. So you'll see it's red, it's inflamed. Those cells have gaps between them, and that allows viruses, bad bacteria, food particles, and that can actually lead to things like food sensitivities and toxin exposure and things of that nature. So it's really kind of out of tact there. We also see a number of bad bacteria at the top. We see a depleted mucus layer. We see just everything kind of awry. And that's what really leads to a leaky gut that has so many downstream effects. It's not only contained to gut-related symptoms like bloating, food sensitivities, diarrhea, things of that nature. It's actually has systemic effects too. So as you were saying, Dr. K, really it can lead to headaches, brain fog, poor sleep, hormone imbalances. So there's so many downstream effects that can occur from a leaky gut.
Yeah, and so many Americans are unaware that they're walking around with these damaged cells inside the lining of their gut, and their doctors don't address these things, do they?
They do not. It's kind of just one of those things where nutrition and a healthy gut isn't really talked about all too much, especially in conventional medicine. And so that's really where, from a holistic perspective and an integrative and functional medicine perspective, really the gut is where we're starting with treatment measures, no matter what we're dealing with, because that, as I said, has so many downstream systemic effects.
Yeah, the gut health, though, is really starting to get into the spotlight. It's a lot more research is coming out. It's exploding with the amount of information that is now coming out about how the health of the gut not only affects the illnesses in the gut, but as you mentioned, throughout the entire body and all the systems of the body, including the brain. We could have, things like depression and anxiety, brain fog, as you mentioned. We could have so many conditions now that are being linked with research to brain health, but not only brain health, but blood sugar control and insulin sensitivity. And we have 40 million Americans are suffering with diabetes right now. And so when they get this information about how the gut affects their blood sugar, this is a new revelation to them. And again, their doctor's not giving them these things. And so we can help to bring people hope, can't we?
Yeah, and I'll also say too, even just thinking about fiber when it comes to the diet, that's going to help to control our blood sugar and support a healthy gut microbiome, support a healthy gut environment. So that's another big thing that's not spoken much about in the conventional world. We have about 95% of Americans not consuming enough fiber, and that's huge. That leads to a whole bunch of downstream effects. Again, not just when it comes to the gut, but systemically as well.
Sure. Well, the bacteria that live inside the gut, the beneficial ones, love fiber. They thrive on it, and they produce these compounds after they ferment the fiber that are called short chain fatty acids, and they have a profound effect not only in the gut, but throughout the entire body. Could you kind of dive into that so we could really understand how the benefits of this one compound, especially butyrate, affects the entire body?
Yeah, so butyrate itself is going to, support the gut environment. So as you see here, it's going to support those tight junctions. It's going to support, the healthy bacteria that live there, but also it's going to have metabolic effects. So it actually plays a role in controlling our blood sugar and our overall just metabolic wellness in the body. It also has immune benefits. So really downstream effects, once it's absorbed into our systemic circulation, it can really have a great effect on balancing immune function. And we know, kind of going back to that fiber intake, if we're not eating enough fiber, then those good bacteria aren't getting that fiber to create those short chain fatty acids. And then we have all these effects with immunity, with our gut lining integrity, with our metabolic health. And we know too, as you said, that so many people out there are suffering with diabetes and blood sugar imbalances. So it really has so many different impacts in so many different bodily systems that even impact the brain, as you said. So everything's interconnected, and that's really the important piece about medicine as a whole. We can't just focus on one system at a time. We really need to look at the whole picture.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about butyrate now, and talk about how butyrate helps not only with the lining of the gut, but talk about the various types of forms of butyrate, because a lot of people think that they could just go ahead and buy a supplement that they can get at the health food store or maybe online, and they're not well versed on the different types of butyrate and how they affect our gut and our entire body.
Yeah, so butyrate is, really common as a supplement. It's very stinky. It's kind of smells like stinky cheese. Sometimes even worse. I've heard it described in many ways that aren't pleasant. But really, when we take butyrate orally in a supplement form, a lot of it gets rapidly absorbed in our small intestine. And that's not where we need it for the most part. We need it to reach the colon, because the colon, or the large intestine, in other words, is where our healthy microbiome live. And so, as we discussed earlier, those healthy bacteria need that butyrate, and they need to produce more butyrate. And so we really need it to get to the colon to have its effects on those tissues. We need it to get to the colon, for so many different reasons, and to kind of stay there and do its job. So when it's rapidly absorbed in the small intestine, what's it really doing? It's getting into systemic circulation, but it's broken down very quickly as well. And so its effects can only go so far in that sense. And so there's this really cool form of butyrate. It's called tributyrin. So what it is it's basically inactive when you first take it. But when it reaches your small intestines, some of the digestive juices that the pancreas actually releases will break that molecule down. And it'll break it down into 3 different butyrate molecules. And it'll basically, what it is, it's attached to like a sugar molecule. And so the pancreatic enzymes will actually break those apart. And that releases that free butyrate. Now, by doing so, that's actually going to slow the absorption of that butyrate and allow it to get to the colon, which is really cool, because that's kind of where we need it to be, as I described. And so by doing so, it's also staying in our systemic circulation for longer and having greater effects. And you only need to take this once a day, which is also a great thing. With regular butyrate supplements, as I said, they degrade very quickly. Sometimes we need to take them a couple times a day. And so this really reduces that supplement burden. And it also requires a very low dose, around 300 milligrams or so. Now, regular butyrate typically is in gram level doses because it's typically combined with a salt like calcium or sodium, things of that nature. So it's a really awesome form of butyrate that I think can really change the game in our supplements that contain this product.
So give us a little bit of more information about what the tributyrate benefits are going to do to the body in an individual who takes it on a regular basis.
Yeah, so it's basically everything that we talked about earlier that butyrate does. So identical impacts, but just better because it's sticking around for longer. It's not degrading quickly. So it's going to help with the integrity of that gut barrier, so helping to heal that leaky gut. It's going to balance our immune function, so really kind of reduce inflammation and balance out the cytokines, meaning we're reducing pro-inflammation and increasing our good cytokines that keep that inflammation in check. So it really is balancing to the immune system.
Yeah, so the cytokines, just for our purposes here, they're molecules that the body produces to either reduce inflammation or promote inflammation. And so butyrate's helping to reduce the inflammation inside the body. How does it affect the immune system besides inflammation?
Yeah, so really, when we think about the immune system, it's all stemming from inflammation, right? So when our inflammatory responses are a little bit out of control, that's when we end up with issues like autoimmunity, for example. And so this really kind of helps to balance that. And actually, another thing that it does is it improves our T regulatory cells. Now, these are white blood cells in the body that keep our immune system in check. They make sure that our body isn't attacking itself like we see with autoimmune conditions. And so by bringing up those types of cells, it really can help balance that immune function overall, not only in the gut, but systemically. So as you talked about with the cytokines, they're like little signaling molecules that cells use to communicate with one another. And so it helps really to achieve balance and immune modulation in that sense. So we can see that a lot of people, for example, with inflammatory bowel disease, which is an autoimmune condition, they tend to be deficient in these short chain fatty acids like butyrate. So these particular individuals really could use something like this to maintain that immune balance.
Well, that's really a pretty amazing ability that the body manufactures these substances like butyrate on its own, but the average person, as you said earlier, 95% of people are not getting enough fiber. So when you take a supplement like the tributyrate, you can really get some profound benefit, and until you catch up to start eating more fiber that you should be doing on a regular basis. And so we like people to really go to food as the source for medicine, but when you have illness, you can also ramp up these compounds and help along with the fiber that you're eating to take a supplement like the tributyrate to get the additional benefits to help to heal and promote that restructuring of the cells in the lining of the gut and help other systemic benefits so as well. So what about how butyrate affects blood sugar regulation? Talk to a little about that and how insulin sensitivity is affected by this as well.
Yeah, so butyrate has a big impact on our mitochondrial function. So mitochondria are the little powerhouses of the cells, and so it actually helps to those mitochondria are involved in creating our ATP or our energy levels. And they're also involved in controlling pathways that relate to blood sugar regulation and overall metabolic health. And so, for example, butyrate can actually trigger a pathway that is triggered when our cellular energy is low. And when we have low cellular energy, that in turn is going to lead to blood sugar issues. And so, it does so by really supporting that mitochondrial health so that little tiny organelle that's involved in our energy production, but it also actually enhances the release of GLP-1 from our intestinal cells. And I think we've all heard of GLP-1 before because there's all these drugs out there like Ozempic and things like that. So butyrate is not going to really be, we can't compare it to a pharmaceutical, but it does enhance that GLP-1 release from the intestinal cells. And that actually has a role in controlling blood sugar levels and promoting satiety. So the feeling of fullness after we eat. And so that can certainly help as well, because we know that people that have blood sugar issues, that blood sugar is not getting into the cells where it's needed to make us feel full. And so that butyrate can certainly help in that sense, because that's exactly one of the things that GLP-1 is doing for us when it is released.
Yeah, well, although that the levels of GLP-1 that the butyrate produces naturally inside the body are not going to be compared to a drug like Ozempic, the nice thing about it is when you work with the body, when you cooperate with the natural processes inside the body, you get these benefits, and you don't need that strong dosage that you would get like in Ozempic, because your body has the ability to regulate and to manage things on its own in a whole different fashion. So if you cooperate with the body and use these natural pathways, you're going to get a lot of benefit, and you're going to, like you said, decrease your desire for eating a lot of extra food. It's going to decrease your appetite, and you're going to get a lot of other benefits along the way without having to rely on a drug.
Exactly. Right. So yeah, just, we want to think about improving the body in many different aspects on the way to that, recovery from blood sugar issues. Because what most people don't understand, and a lot of people's doctors don't tell them, is that, these blood sugar issues are reversible. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be on a drug for the rest of your life. If you clean up the gut, if you clean up the diet, we can get things functioning properly. And butyrate is one of the ways that we can do that, along with, a whole bunch of other types of supplements and support that we can offer. But, none of that is going to replace the diet. Of course, we need to focus on healthy foods, healthy fiber intake. Because also, if we end up healing our gut and getting healthy fiber intake moving forward, then our good bacteria in our gut is going to do all the work for us. It's going to create that butyrate through fermentation. And that removes the need for being on a supplement for the rest of your life too. So, it's all about healing and less about, managing symptoms forever.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You mentioned about how people with blood sugar dysregulation, with either insulin resistance or they have diabetes, and they're on medications. It doesn't take long for the body to be able to heal those conditions. I've had many patients with diabetes, type 2 diabetes that we're talking about right now. That is a diet and lifestyle disease that so many Americans are affected by. I've had many people in a relatively short period of time, within a couple weeks, their blood sugar comes down to normal. And they're able to get off of medications in a relatively short period of time. They're off the medications and they're living a whole different type of lifestyle that is congruent with healing the body, as opposed to working against the body. We're cooperating with the body, because the body has the ability to heal itself, doesn't it? The Greeks have a saying called vis medicatrix naturae, the healing power of nature. And we need to tap into that, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know about you, but I've had patients in the past that were diabetic or, insulin resistant, pre-diabetic. And, the first thing I talk about is diet. and they're a little bit confused. They're like, what do you mean? My endocrinologist never said anything to me about diet. This is, this is just in my family. And, while there could be a genetic component, of course, a lot of it, especially when it comes to type 2 diabetes, of course, is lifestyle induced. And so that's a major part of the treatment plan that's being totally missed in conventional medicine a lot of the time. So really important to focus on that, and also not rely completely on supplements, because they're called supplements for a reason. They're supposed to be.
Yeah, you mentioned the fact that that people are suffering with these problems, and they think that they can't do anything about it because their doctors aren't telling them. That's the problem. And
Right.
so when they get educated, and I always like to tell people, it's better to educate than to medicate. And if you learn about these things, and that's what we talk about here on the other side of medicine, is to teach people how you can get the ability to take advantage of the body's capacity to heal itself. And so when you want to get the blood sugar under control, it does come from eating a healthier diet. And that's where you start. If you eat a healthier diet, get rid of the refined carbohydrates, eat more fiber-rich foods, and get rid of the bad oils, then your body could start absorbing nutrients better and then giving the body the resources it needs to heal itself.
Mm-hmm.
So let's shift to the brain right now, because the gut and the brain connection is so well researched now. And we're seeing a lot of the information that's coming out about how the gut and the brain is connected. How does the butyrate help that process inside the body?
Yeah, so if we think about just its impacts, as we discussed, on inflammation, on metabolic health, they say issues with the brain, like Alzheimer's disease, for example, is almost like a type of diabetes, right? So if our blood sugar is out of control, if we have this leaky gut, allowing these toxins and these food sensitivities to kind of take over the body, we're living in a constant state of inflammation. And that inflammatory response can extend to the brain. And there's something called a blood-brain barrier, where we're supposed to be able to keep certain things out of the brain and in the blood, and certain things should be able to pass through to the brain that we need. And so, similar to leaky gut, there's this concept of leaky brain, where all of these horrible things are getting into the bloodstream in the brain, and then that creates more neural inflammation, and the issues stem from there. So really, when we talk about butyrate having these systemic effects, and it's not just butyrate, it's going to be a whole bunch of supportive measures, but that's one way that it can impact it, is by controlling that blood sugar, controlling that inflammatory response, and then effectively helping that brain tissue to thrive and keep the inflammation out, and really, keep that blood-brain barrier intact. So very, very connected. Also, the good bacteria in the gut are extremely connected to the brain. And so by creating a healthy gut barrier, we're allowing those good bacteria to thrive. And that effectively helps with brain function and mental function as well.
Yeah, and when we take the average American who's eating a lot of refined carbohydrates, which is low in fiber, and they're eating the bad oils, and they're taking a lot of medications, especially antibiotics, on a routine basis, and their doctor dishes them out like candy. And of course, we're unknowingly, people are getting antibiotics in the food supply. They're getting it even on fruits and vegetables. They're spraying fruits and vegetables with antibiotics, and they're getting so many sources of these antibiotics, not only in prescription form, but in the food and the milk and all these various foods. It's destroying the the beneficial bacteria, and these harmful bacteria, they begin to release toxic compounds. Some of them are very, very toxic, like lipopolysaccharides, which have deleterious effects throughout the entire body, including the brain. And then we end up having doctors go ahead and treat people with medications for these problems. And if we could just get back to, again, cooperate with nature, we could get rid of these harmful bacteria. We could support the beneficial bacteria, like the ones that produce butyrate, and then we could heal the gut, and we can get better absorption of nutrients and stop letting these toxins get into the bloodstream, and we could heal the body. So we need to realize that we're not taking advantage of this powerful concept of the body heals itself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And to your point too, they're not only spraying these things with antibiotics, they're also spraying them with glyphosate. We're getting a lot of glyphosate through the fruits and vegetables out there as well, which is, detrimental to the gut. You see in this picture here, the toxins, the little black pieces there, that's basically glyphosate getting into the bloodstream and to the brain. And that can have many effects as well. Even heavy metals we're exposed to in our environment. And that can negatively impact the body, including the brain as well. So there's so many different things that we're exposed to every day in our environment. And that's another reason why we want to heal that gut, because that's where we're absorbing most of it, is right through our food and what we're ingesting.
Okay. Well, Dr. Douglas, let's, if we may, shift right now to talk about a specific bacteria that's gaining a lot of notoriety in the research today, called Akkermansia muciniphila. It's a long name. Is there any short way we can shorten that name for our listening audience?
I usually just say Akkermansia.
Okay. So talk about how that bacteria, which is produced by eating, again, a lot of fiber, what are the benefits of Akkermansia?
Yeah, so let's talk about Akkermansia just in general first. So it is a commensal bacteria, meaning that it naturally lives in our gut. It comprises about 1 to 4% of our microbiome. So it's a very small amount, but it has very big impacts. So when we're little babies, we typically have more Akkermansia. And then as time goes on, when we get older, levels tend to decline. Now, one really interesting thing is that in research, they've actually found that people that live over 100 actually have higher levels of Akkermansia. So it makes us wonder, is this bacteria involved in longevity and lowering inflammation and anti-aging? Most likely. So Akkermansia, what it does is you see this picture here, look on the left at that mucus layer. So that healthy mucus layer, that's where Akkermansia lives. It kind of hangs out in there, and it actually eats the mucus. That's its energy source. And when it eats that mucus, that allows the body to kind of compensate and produce more mucus. So it promotes this healthy turnover of that mucus layer, which we know is very important for keeping a normal gut and avoiding that leaky gut scenario. So that's a very, very kind of brief overview of the Akkermansia probiotic. Now, the problem with that is because it eats the mucus. Look at the diagram here on the right, where we don't have much mucus there. So if we have Akkermansia and we're taking it, let's say, as a probiotic supplement, that can actually be more detrimental to that gut barrier, because it's going to be feeding on that little bit of mucus that we do have in a leaky gut. And then it's not really going to be, our gut isn't working properly already. So our body's not going to effectively create that mucus layer again. So what do we do about that?
So now, actually it's going to worsen the condition, because
right.
the Akkermansia, by the way, you say Akkermansia, I say Akkermansia. You say tomato, I say tomato. So that's okay. But but it's going to worsen the condition. And so what can people do about it? Because the average person, again, sees a YouTube video on Akkermansia and they go ahead and they order it online, or they go to their doctor and their doctor may not even know about what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
What is the difference? Because all Akkermansia is not the same.
Right, exactly. So this is what we can do about it. So Akkermansia actually comes in a form called a pasteurized form. So we've all heard of pasteurized milk. So basically what that does is we're heating the bacteria at a very low level, and that actually kills the bacteria. However, it retains the bacteria's overall structure. And that bacteria does have healthy molecules on its surface that actually helps to do all of the beneficial things in the human body without the bacteria having to be alive. So what it does is it kills the bacteria itself, so it no longer can degrade that mucin layer. But what it does is it enhances its ability to improve the gut barrier. It enhances its ability to improve metabolic health, and it enhances its ability to improve immune health as well. So kind of similar actions as butyrate, but just it's a probiotic that's been killed. And in other words, they call that a postbiotic. So it's like a dead bacteria, but it has health benefits. And so that's the really cool thing about using pasteurized Akkermansia in supplement form, is that you can use it in a leaky gut and it's not going to have detrimental effects on that mucin layer. In fact, it's actually going to enhance the mucin layer because it does activate several different pathways that help our body to release more mucin. So really cool form there, kind of like tributyrin. That's really up and coming, I think, in the supplement world.
Although the research is early on with the ability of Akkermansia to help with weight loss, there is some evidence, isn't there?
Yes, absolutely. So one study that actually came out in 2024, very recent, talked about how the pasteurized form of Akkermansia can actually enhance GLP-1 secretion from our gut cells. So again, that's not the same as the pharmaceutical drugs that are doing so, but it does give us some fascinating insight on what we can look into more in the future in terms of metabolic health. But it's also actually, the pasteurized form has been shown in several studies to improve blood sugar regulation, improve lipid profiles, so our cholesterol levels, and actually improve body composition too. So helping to kind of build more lean muscle mass and reduce fat on the body. So really cool research. I think we certainly need more research done in humans because a lot of the studies out there have been done in rodents. However, there are a few human studies, which is wonderful. But I would love to see more come out on that to really back those benefits and what it's actually doing in the body.
Sure. Once again, although it's not the levels of GLP-1 that you'll find in a drug, it's, again, we don't know even if we need those levels at the body's ability, when the body has the ability to work with synergistically all the systems of the body, we can get the benefit without having to have those high dosages. And so it's going to be interesting to see how the research develops over time to show how these things work cooperatively with the body's own natural processes. So is there anything else that we can talk about with the research with Akkermansia?
Yeah, so we kind of covered the metabolic side of things. It is going to help with that gut barrier, as I said. So it kind of indirectly enhances our mucin secretion by some of the cells that are found in the gut. So This is through several different pathways that it can target, but also it actually has immune benefits as well. So, as we talked about earlier with those cytokines, those signaling molecules that cells use to communicate with one another, this really helps to enhance those anti-inflammatory responses and bring down those pro-inflammatory responses. So that's through a number of different pathways as well. And there's one particular protein on the surface of the bacteria it's found both in the live form and the pasteurized form. And that protein is really responsible for a lot of these benefits, which is really cool because, that tells us we really don't need the bacteria to be alive. We just need that surface molecule to be working on these different pathways. The other cool thing about pasteurized Akkermansia is that it's very stable. So when you take it, it's going to be unchanged in the body because there's nothing to kill. Now, with the live form, it can be really unstable when it hits your stomach because of the stomach acid that we have. It could be unstable in different extreme temperatures. So it's much warmer in our body than it is in the outside world. And shelf stability as well. So, when you look at live Akkermansia, it really needs to be stored at very cold temperatures. Whereas the pasteurized form is very stable. It's again, there's nothing to kill. So it kind of just hangs out. And once you take it, it's going to have its benefits.
Wonderful. Well, I know that there's a product that we want to talk a little bit about right now that I think is very beneficial for helping to heal the gut and to support the systems of the body that I think so many people need. Let's talk about that specific supplement right now and some of the other ingredients that are in it.
Yeah, so let me just pull up the supplement label here for you so that we can really take a look at that and have a visual here.
Yeah, and while you're looking for that, I just wanted to mention that a lot of people don't realize that they'll hear that we talked a little bit earlier about things like diabetes or if you want to talk about autoimmune disease or any kind of chronic disease, people think that, well, genetically I'm, prone towards that disease, or I have these markers in my genes, and they think that is the end all be all. But people have to realize is that now there's an exploding amount of research coming out now showing that our genetics play a very small part, maybe about 10%. And that the study of epigenetics basically describes how our lifestyles literally trump the genetics. So if we take a proactive role in our health, we don't have to, fall into that hook, line, and sinker that we have been these genes that are going to make us prone, and so we can't do anything about it. No, don't let your doctor tell you that it's genetic and there's nothing you can do about it. There's great hope for people if they take charge of their health and work with the body's capacity to heal itself.
Right. Yeah. So this product right here is called Renew Gut Thrive. It's a new product offered by Research Nutritionals. So these products,
I use that product in my practice, by the way. So
yeah, that's great. So I would love to hear some feedback from you as well, if you're able to at some point. But basically, what we're doing with this product is multifaceted. We focus on multiple mechanisms of action, not just one single area, because of course, the body is a complex system, right? So we want to address several different areas. So you'll see there's a few different blends on this supplement facts label. Now, the first blend you see there is called the tight junction enhancer. So you'll recall the picture we were just looking at with those faulty tight junctions. So we really want to keep those cells together and keep them strong. And so This blend really has a few different ingredients that help to do so. Now, it's comprised of collagen peptides, which really help to hold those tight junctions together. Collagen peptides also help to work almost like a prebiotic for our gut bacteria, meaning it's going to feed those gut bacteria so that they can thrive and live and continue to work. Then we have what's called N-acetyl D-glucosamine. Now that's a long word. For short, we just call it NAG. And basically what it is it's kind of like a sugar and a protein together. And what that does is it can help to reduce inflammation in that gut environment. It helps to support those tight junctions to keep those cells together once again. And then we have what's called deglycerized licorice. So licorice is an herb that when taken in its whole form, it typically can have ill blood pressure effects. So it can raise our blood pressure, and we don't want that, of course, especially with people that have metabolic issues. Sometimes they do have high blood pressure there. So this deglycerized form, or we call it DGL, this form actually reduces that ability for that herb to increase blood pressure. So it's a little bit of a safer form. And what that does is it really soothes those GI tissues. It helps to with the mucus secretion in the gut, so building that mucus layer. And then we have zinc carnosine. Now, this form of zinc has really been studied clinically very extensively to support those tight junctions, to heal the stomach lining. So all really powerful ingredients in that tight junction enhancer blend.
Nice. Could you share with us? I know you have a wonderful diagram showing about all the benefits that this product does. Can you share that diagram with us? Because I think it would be very helpful for people to see the broad scope of benefits that this product brings. And so, again, we're looking at helping to work with the body to help to heal itself. And this is promoting a healthy gut.
Right. Yep. So lots of great downstream effects. And, you know, the second blend that we had there was called our mast cell manager. And this has two ingredients in there. One is black cumin seed. That's an herb. And another is luteolin. It's actually a flavonoid or an antioxidant that is extracted from a tree in the pea family. And what those two things do is they actually help to reduce the histamine response in the gut, because lots of times, you know, we think about histamine related to allergies, for example. That's what makes our skin itchy and red when we have an allergic reaction. But histamine is also problematic in the gut for some people. Sometimes doctors will put patients on a low histamine diet. Really, that's because histamine can, cause excessive inflammation in the gut if there's too much of it going on. So those ingredients kind of help to calm that response and really control some of the inflammation and promote comfort in the gut. And then, as we already talked about, the tributyrin and the pasteurized Akkermansia are in there for their gut health benefits, their immune benefits, and their metabolic benefits. So you see this diagram here, really, promoting that healthy gut environment, promoting a healthy gut microbiome. It's really going to have so many outward effects for different pathologic states and promoting that systemic health overall.
Wonderful. Well, this has been really very enlightening for our listening audience, and I just would like to have you back in the future, and we could talk so much about these things that are interesting for the average person, because they don't get this from their family doctors. And so we thank you so much for taking the time today to bring this information. Is there anything you'd like to leave with our listening audience today?
Yeah, I really thank you guys for joining us and for you having me here today. And, I would love to answer any questions anybody has if anything comes up. And we're always here to support you in any way. So thank you so much.
Okay, well, once again, Dr. Douglas, thank you for your time. And we'll talk to you next week here on the other side of medicine. Until then,